My name's Quinn Brady, and I'm the project director for Uplift Central Coast, which has just been a incredible honor and privilege to work with so many of you and an incredible team here at Uplift. And today we're going to get to share a bit of an update on our work so far and what's ahead. And before I go any farther, I want to introduce our interpreter, Maricel, to give instructions for those needing interpretation.
Hello everyone, this message is bilingual and will be repeated in English. Este es un mensaje bilingüe y será repetido en inglés. Buenas tardes, para facilitar el acceso lingüístico, proporcionaremos interpretación simultánea entre inglés y español. Mi nombre es Marisol y seré su intérprete para esta tarde. Si usted es bilingüe, no tiene que presionar nada. Si usted no es bilingüe en inglés y español, tendrá que elegir el idioma en que desea escuchar la interpretación. Si está usando una computadora, verá un icono en forma de globo en la parte inferior derecha de su pantalla que dice interpretación. Haga clic allí y seleccione español. Si está usando la aplicación de Zoom en un iPad o teléfono, busque el menú de 3 puntos en la parte superior derecha de su pantalla, haga clic en interpretación de idiomas y elija español y luego listo o done. Le recordaremos a los oradores que hablen uno a la vez y a un paso moderado. Good afternoon. In order to facilitate language access, we will be providing simultaneous interpretation in English and Spanish. My name is Marisol, and I will be your interpreter for this afternoon. You don't have to press anything. If you are bilingual, you do not have to press anything. If you are not bilingual in English and Spanish, you will have to select the language that you wish to hear the interpretation in. If you're on a PC or laptop, look for the globe icon on the bottom right that says interpretation and select English. If you're on the Zoom application on an iPad or your phone, locate the 3-dot menu on the top right, click on language interpretation, and then select English. We'd like to remind our speakers to please speak one at a time and at a moderate pace. Thank you. I will pass it back to Quinn. Se lo pasaré a Quinn, and you can assign me as interpreter now.
Thank you, Marisol. That reminder to speak at a moderate pace was for me because she knows I speak quickly, but so grateful to have all of you here and still people coming in. So thank you all for joining us today. We're really excited to share about a lot of the work that we've been up to collectively across the 6-county region of the Central Coast over the last 8 months or so. And we're going to have the opportunity to hear from some different people. You won't just hear from me the whole time. A couple things that I want to call out is that we rebranded just a few months back and worked with the team at Verdun to really hope to bring something and build a website that would be a great tool. So I hope that you'll explore that a little bit more and you'll get to see some of that work today. We are going to be utilizing the Q&A function for Zoom so that you can get some of your questions answered a little bit later when we start to dive into the report and the research and the work that we've done to date. So be looking out for that when we set that up. We are recording the meeting to make it accessible for those who are not able to attend today. And before I go any farther, I want to just call out the team members who are here, the committee members who are here, and our conveners who are here, who are really putting their hearts and minds and talents and treasure into this work every day. And so as I speak, it's really in partnership with all of them who have been really co-creating and leaning into this work. So thank you all so much. With that, I'm going to welcome up a few of our teammates who are the conveners who really formed and brought Uplift together. Tara Goraya from MBEP, Bruce Stensley from BDC, and Melissa James from REACH, who are just going to get the chance to say hello for a minute. So with that, I'll start with Tara.
Thank you, Quinn. Good afternoon, officially, everybody, and happy 2024. We're just really excited because we're gosh, on a number of fronts, I wouldn't even know where to begin. So first, thank you, Quinn, and the leadership steering committee and the vision committee. We have so many folks who are truly coming together to make this a collaborative effort as we look to plan an inclusive economic development across our 6 counties. And so I'm really excited. I guess the word I have, or the theme that I'd like to sort of rally around this year, is really about collaboration and partnership, and stuff like that really warms my heart. So I know we have a super packed agenda. I'm going to kick it over to my colleagues, but welcome, and I'm looking forward to continuing our work together as we build this inclusive economic development plan. So I'll kick it off to Bruce. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Tara. Good afternoon, everyone. Bruce Stensley, President and CEO, Economic Development Collaborative. We're thrilled to be part of this incredible collaboration across 6 counties. It's been, more than a year already. We've made some incredible partnerships, friendships, and learned a ton through listening sessions and other activities that many or all of you have participated in. But we're now starting to get to the point where we're taking that information, really shaping it. You're going to hear more about what is the content of regional plan, and then start moving into what we can really do to move this economy to a more broadly shared opportunity. Thrilled to be a partner, thrilled to see so many friends and allies on the call, and I will kick it to Melissa, please.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, both Bruce and Tara, and thanks to each and every one of you who have carved out a part of your day to be with us. We are thrilled to have this milestone to be able to come together and share so much of the work that's been happening over these last several months by our team, all of our committee members, our community-based organizations who have been actively and deeply engaging with community, not just to understand what the economic opportunities and needs are at the aggregate level, but really to understand it based on the perspectives and the lived experiences of so many different pockets of our community. And it has been so interesting for me personally to see so much of those stories, those lived experiences come to life. You'll hear today a lot more about that. And we hope that as you are joining in this conversation, that you too are energized to lean in and co-create, not just an understanding what is happening in our community, but how to connect many more people in our community who need it with the opportunities that exist. One data point we've heard is that basically 1 in every 2 residents are struggling to make ends meet. And that is unacceptable. We have to do better for many more people. And this work and this collaboration and each of you who are around the table are key to making that happen. So excited to be a part of the conversation with you, each of you today. And I especially want to thank and acknowledge the leadership of Quinn Brady, who I'm turning it back over to today, who is in this work, wakes up each and every day with all of you and the community at the top of her mind and helping to drive all of us in this collaboration forward. So thanks to Quinn and thanks to my colleagues, both Bruce and Tara, and back over to you, Quinn.
Thanks so much, Melissa. Okay, I'm excited to pull up a video that we've just put together. It's super short, and there'll be a longer version soon, which I'll be excited to share with all of you, that helps put a little bit of the heart and soul of the work into perspective. So.
Navigating starting a business, it's very difficult. If I knew what I was getting myself into, I probably wouldn't have done it, just because it was so scary to try to find all these resources.
Uplift Coalition is a group of community members from across our 6-county region who've come together to help address some of the most pressing barriers to economic opportunity that face the people who live among us and carry the weight of our community on their shoulders every day.
What Uplift is doing is identifying and looking at a system that's always been, and now making sure that the voices of people who have not been heard are being heard.
Ellos están enfocados en escuchar a nuestra comunidad latina.
We are Uplift, uplifting families, uplifting communities, and uplifting our future. Visit upliftcentralcoast.org to learn more about this work and join our growing coalition of organizations. Thanks for that, Maddie. For those that are just joining, we still have lots of people coming in. Would love for you to take a second to share your name, introduce yourself, where you're joining from, and what you're looking forward to in 2024 in the chat. We do have a large meeting and we're going to cover a lot today. So I'm just going to ask you to stay on mute, and there will be a time for some question and answers a little bit later. But feel free to use the chat throughout. We'll be capturing questions and trying to get to as much as we can. I'm going to spend a little bit of time just talking about Uplift and California Jobs First, which is the new name for SURF, used to be SURF, rebranded at the state level. So many of you are really familiar, and so it will be a review, but want to make sure to set the table and make sure if our folks that are just joining for the first time get an understanding about what we're up to. And then we're going to deep dive for a little while into Regional Plan Part 1, which we just submitted to the state a couple weeks ago, and will be coming out very soon publicly. And so we're going to talk about that research for the first time publicly today and share some of the key implications and learnings from along the way, which we're really excited about. And then Lady's going to lead us through talking about some of the community engagement to date and what's ahead, ways to get engaged there. We're going to get to hear from some of the folks that are partnering with us on community engagement and partnering with us in this work. I'm going to do just a quick touch about the Catalyst funding, what that is, what you can expect, and it will be a great time together with all of that. So all that said, I want to talk first about just kind of who Uplift is and how we came together. So Uplift is a collaboration between 3 organizations of Monterey Bay Economic Partnership. You heard from Tara, REACH, you heard from Melissa James, and EDC, the Economic Development Collaborative with Bruce Stensile. And those organizations serve the 6-county region, Santa Cruz, San Benito, Monterey, San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, and Ventura counties. And together, we are really building and developing a broad coalition that aims to reflect the diversity of our coast, to center a really inclusive process to economic planning. A lot of times when we think about economic development and these planning processes, it's the same people at the table, people that have traditionally held power. And we're really doing a lot of work to kind of disrupt and rethink that process and make sure that we build a different kind of table that includes all the voices that make up our communities and most often carry the weight of our communities on their backs. We've been deep in a time of conducting a comprehensive industry and workforce analysis, lots and lots of research, and understanding the demographics and social conditions of our 6-county region. That's what we'll get into in a little bit. And then prioritizing a plan that will be an action plan that will really be able to immediately channel into investment. So that planning phase is where we've been, right in this blue zone over the past 8 months with our committees, which I'll talk about in a minute, our team, and lots and lots of listening sessions, engaging over 1,500 people over just the past couple months, with many more that will be, much more that will be happening in the next few months. And as we work toward this next season, we'll be bringing all of the learnings together from the community and the research to form strategies that will drive into this implementation time, where we'll continue to pull down funding from the state and other places to seed and fund that work and those strategies that will really hope to meet some of the barriers and pain points to economic opportunity that face our communities. On the next slide, all of our work is really centered here at the heart of economic opportunity, equity, and sustainability. So when we think about how we engage our community, project metrics and criteria, and our governance structure, we're really focusing here at the heart of this work. So any strategy that you see that will come from Uplift over the next 6 months will combine a combination of these things to help support and partner with communities and organizations to create high road jobs that are equitable, jobs that have access for our community, that are also sustainable, and promote and create opportunity for those who are struggling to get that opportunity for a variety of reasons, which we're going to talk more about in the research. So our approach to this work has really been starting with organizing for inclusive action, which began with forming our governance committees. We have 33 people who many are in the room today, and in a minute I'm going to have them raise their hands, and so we can just kind of acknowledge who they are, that they are the drivers and the decision makers about much of this project, about the strategies as they come together, about the funding that will be designated and awarded, and then a plan to engage the community at large through listening sessions, roundtables, surveys, different ways, multi-language approach to meeting communities where they are, rather than bringing them into to our realm, like really going to where people are across the 6-county region. We've been in a time of that data analysis. If you'll go back one, Maddie, we did a public opinion poll. We've been working with industry leaders in one-on-one interviews to really understand the state of employment and the barriers that even our employers face. And then we'll drive all of that learning into that strategy development and implementation. On the next slide, one of the things that I just wanted to call out that makes Uplift different is that we have this set of guiding principles that we all subscribe to. We remind each other of this at the beginning of every meeting, and it's a way that we are committed to showing up for our community and for each other in big conversations. A lot of this work is in hard, uncomfortable conversations as we talk about the real pain points that affect the people who call the Central Coast home. So as we meet together and as we make these decisions, we really subscribe to challenging our biases, looking at data differently and pulling in and resourcing people and seeking out different perspectives, practicing curiosity, and really bringing a we before me approach to this work. I've been really grateful for the many, many committee members and team members who have joined us in this work and really brought this heart to it. It can be uncomfortable and bumpy to talk about pain points and to talk about and make decisions collaboratively, but they are really leaning in, and for that I'm super grateful. On the next slide, this speaks a little bit to that governance group and our committees that I was sharing a little bit about. And I would love for those who are on a committee right now, if you'll just raise your hand, and in a second, I'm going to ask Maddie to pull this down. But the state, California Jobs First, mandated 12 different stakeholder groups be involved in this process. Those are the different seats at the table: government agencies, labor, disinvested communities, worker centers, Native American tribes. And so our committees have representation from each of these stakeholder groups at the table. They are the ones that help us guide the project, understand who in our communities we should be reaching out to, review data and reporting, and are real partners up with us in this work. Maddie, if you will, just for 1 second, take the deck down. I want to show, if you're a committee member, will you raise your hand? Many of them have the backgrounds, but there's lots of great folks in the room who have been deeply collaboratively giving their time and talents and smarts to this work. And so to each of you, I am super thankful. And we are going to get the opportunity here in a minute to hear from a couple of those committee members who are going to share why this work matters to them, why they joined, and what is different about this work or that important to them in it. So I want to first invite up Derek. There he is. Derek Williams is the founder of Black, and an organization in the northern part of our region, and has been an incredible partner to me, to myself, and just our work collectively. And I'm happy to welcome Derek, who's going to share for a couple minutes.
Thanks, Quinn. And to everybody, hey, Happy New Year, and thank you for being here. Yeah, I know we're short on time, so I'll make this quick. You know, I wrote some stuff down, so I'm just gonna bleed it out this way because it makes more sense. As an African-American man, I can tell you historically, my grandparents' parents and myself, we've heard the promises of equality and equity, fair representation, and we watched all these promises fed to us by dishonest people and dishonest systems. The rhetoric of it just become lies and distrust. So, I mean, I've heard these promises myself in my very few years, my young years of being in Central Coast. I was invited to be part of this by invitation by MBEP, Tara, and Jazana. And one of the things that they said to me that was interesting was that the state of California wants to make a difference. They wanted to, they were tired of the top-down mentality, and they wanted to hear more from the people who are disenfranchised, disinvested. And for me, initially, it was another promise, but then again, if you want change, you have to be the change you want to see. So yes, I said I would get involved. What I discovered being involved with this group of people is that there's some highly dedicated, highly intelligent, very focused individuals that really want to make a difference. It's not just talk. I can say now to my constituents, I can say to the people that I work with confidence and with hope, that the state of California really is doing the work to try to build equity and equality and representation into its processes. And I can say it because I'm watching it and because I'm part of it. So it's just an amazing thing to go from what I have seen historically to what I now believe is possible in the future. I can speak to that confidently, and I will speak to that confidently going forward because of the people that make up Uplift. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Derek. I really appreciate your partnership and work and heart in this. Great to hear from you on why you're in this work. And committee members, if you want to take a second in the chat and also put in why you joined this work and what's important to you, would encourage you to do that so we can hear from a few more folks. And now I'm going to bring up Kathy Odell, who's here from Weave down in the southern part of our region. And she is going to share just a couple minutes as well about why she joined this work and why it's important to her.
Okay, and first I should apologize for lack of background somehow. It didn't come up right. So I am Kathy Odell, CEO of Women's Economic Ventures, and I am a part of the Vision Committee. Weave is a nonprofit economic development agency serving Santa Barbara and Ventura counties. And our work centers on economic empowerment for women and historically marginalized individuals. I was intrigued and excited about the potential for a multi-county regional coalition from the day I heard about SURF, our former name, California Economic Resilience Fund. And I think it was back in 2022. And I was eager to get involved to see how this initiative might be different than some of the things we've encouraged in the past. I have run a couple of fairly large businesses, and I have always found that getting all perspectives at the table and creating inclusivity to the greatest extent possible is what's required in every problem-solving exercise. And I think too often we see well-meaning individuals or group attack a problem from a single issue viewpoint, and the one we're passionate about, like in our case, economic empowerment for women. But in my experience, that's never enough. Single point solutions leave holes in the solution that somebody drives a truck through. So problems are best and most effectively solved when all stakeholders participate and we have a holistic view of the issues. And the Uplift Coalition has shown that it has that kind of an approach. It has a broad vision. We're trying to improve equity and sustainability and economic opportunity across the region and in each of our communities individually. And the coalition acknowledges that this unique diversity that we have in our region and the difference in the demographics, the economic strengths that we have, as well as our challenges. And the coalition is focused on using those unique resources and talent to improve the lives of all the residents, not just a few. In the last year, I have personally learned about challenges that I didn't know existed, and also about resources that I didn't know existed. I've talked with individuals in counties and communities outside my home region and seen the innovative approaches that they've taken and been very excited about the high potential that has for successful deployment elsewhere in our region. And most satisfying, and here I'm agreeing with Derek, I have seen firsthand how many passionate and committed individuals exist working on this project, and their willingness to collaborate enthusiastically to achieve the goals of equity, long-term sustainability, and consistent increases in economic opportunity. So I'm hoping all of you that are on the call who haven't gotten involved yet will stay connected with us and consider how you might be helpful in this effort.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kathy. Thank you, Kathy and Derek, both for sharing. It's really been an honor to work with both of them and so many of our committee members. And this is a photo of some, but not all of our committee members. We have 3 committees that make up a vision and 2 sub-regional steering groups, as well as a research committee. And they truly just give their time to this work. We meet monthly, but oftentimes more often than monthly, and we do lots of collaborative work in documents, and they have been giving their time and talent to that, and I'm super grateful. And I do just want to I guess maybe clarify or remind that what Kathy mentioned is CERF, California Economic Resilience Fund, is where the funding was initially came from with the state, that was the state programming, the state funding. The state just rebranded that work to be called California Jobs First. So that is at the program that we are partnering with at the state level to bring this work forward. Uplift Central Coast Coalition is our 6-county work that we're doing funded by California Jobs First, which so many names, so many acronyms, confuses all of us all the time. So feel free to keep asking if we use acronyms and we need to clarify. And with that, I'm going to share just a little bit, super briefly, high level, and we're going to send out all of these slides for you as well afterwards and the recording. But we've done a lot since we began. Really, June, July, we formed our committees and began some community engagement and began working on the regional plan that we're about to talk about. And over the fall, we submitted an application for catalyst funding for $14 million to continue this work and start to seed the work in our region. And really started forming the research for the regional plan, both in partnership with community members and in partnership with research committee members. And then in November, into the end of the year, we continued lots of listening sessions. We partnered with community-based organizations around our region, and we submitted Regional Plan Part 1. So we've been up to lots the last few months, but never fear if you have not yet plugged in, there's still lots of opportunities, and we're gonna have some asks for you today. Really excited to say that next week we will be releasing fully publicly all of that Regional Plan Part 1, which is all of our research and work to date. It's over 200 pages, I think 226. So we hope you'll read it. But if you don't want to get into all of those pages, we are also putting out an executive summary, which I think really shares the main findings and the heart of the work that we've been doing. So you'll get that in a newsletter in your email inbox if you receive that. If you don't receive our newsletters yet, I encourage you to sign up, but we'll be sending all of that out next week. And also really beginning work right now on the second phase of this regional plan, or the roadmap for the Central Coast, which brings together the strategies to start to meet some of these barriers and the challenges that we face. With that, I want to get into Regional Plan Part 1. This is the exciting part for me. A lot of thoughtfulness and incredibly smart people worked really hard on this regional plan. One of those people today is Rachel Barker. She's with Brookings Institute, who has been our partners in research. And then she can speak a little bit to the methodology and the work that was done and share some of those key findings and the implications and where we go from here with this. So really excited to kick it to Rachel. Before I do that, we are going to be pulling up the Q&A feature. So if you have questions for Rachel or for the team about this work, please post your questions in the Q&A, which you can find at the bottom of your screen. And we're going to get to as many of those questions after Rachel's done sharing out. If you can't find the Q&A there, you can feel free to pop something in the chat or to us directly. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Rachel.
Okay, well, thank you, Quinn. On behalf of our larger team of research colleagues, I'm really excited to be here with you all today and share a sampling of this extensive research that, as Quinn mentioned, you all will be seeing in greater detail very soon. So starting with some brief context on the objectives and process behind this research, really want to be clear that the purpose and goals guiding all of this work over many months last year was not just to produce a mass of data and numbers, but was really to provide a wide range of folks in this region with actionable tools to really understand the starting point in the region, the trends, the challenges, the opportunities, and have a shared basis for the important decisions that are
what we do.
about strategies and investments as this project moves into the next phase. So the research agenda was guided by a series of fairly wide-ranging requirements set out by the state as part of the California Jobs First program. Those spanned economic factors like labor market analysis and industry clusters, plus things like climate and health and stakeholder mapping that really reflect broader considerations around community well-being and resilience and participation. So you'll be seeing some pieces of this today, but then obviously much more in those longer products that will be coming starting next week. Next slide, please. As you'll also see, this work pulls on a range of really diverse research methods. So this work leveraged quantitative analysis, which looks at data and numbers and analysis, along with a really robust series of interviews, a literature review of existing strategies in the region, as well as a really robust and thoughtful community engagement process that you'll be hearing a lot more about in the next section of today's meeting. And all of this sort of came together to come to the implications that you'll be seeing. So in terms of what all of this is adding up to, as Quinn mentioned, you will see 2 of these research products very soon. The long form research report, which totals about 200 pages, so a lot to dig into there, along with a shorter executive summary that's a little more digestible. And then the strategy response plan, which will be coming later this year. So with that background, let's get into some of the analysis. And as Melissa alluded to earlier in this call, one of the most striking outputs of the research, which I think really speaks to the overall purpose and imperative of Uplift, is that despite all the economic strengths of the Central Coast, over 1 million people, or 45% of residents, belong to a family that struggles to make ends meet. And what that means is that those families are unable to cover their basic costs, things like housing, food, childcare, plus set aside a modest amount of savings for emergencies and longer term goals like saving up for a house or for education. Looking deeper at that, it's really important to note that those aren't monolithic numbers. Residents that are younger, those with less traditional education, those from BIPOC communities are much more likely to struggle than others. And what that really shows is where a lot of focus needs to be paid in building a more equitable economy in the Central Coast. Next slide, please. So what explains that? So many people struggling. Part of the issue is, as I think many of you probably know, living in the Central Coast, it's an extremely expensive place. So costs for things like housing are extremely high. But the core problem is that this region, like most of the rest of the country, given some complex economic trends, just doesn't have enough quality jobs. And when we talk about quality jobs here, we mean a job that pays a livable wage, that enables folks and their families to meet their cost of living, that provides employer-sponsored health insurance, which is important in and of itself and is also often a proxy for other benefits, and then a job that also provides stability in retaining a quality job over the following decade. In this region, about 1/4 of jobs meet that definition. Another 15% qualify as promising jobs, meaning we are able to identify a pathway to that job leading to a quality job within 10 years. But what that means is that the majority of jobs here are neither quality or promising, meaning that boosting quality jobs, either growing new ones or improving the quality of existing jobs, needs to be a really big focus for this region in improving outcomes for its residents. So how do you create more quality jobs? First, you need to understand where those jobs exist in the economy and then focus attention and investment in those areas. Industries vary pretty significantly in the number of quality and promising jobs they offer. In this region, there are some large traditional industries that are really anchors of the region, like agriculture and hospitality, that have a lot of jobs, but the number of those that are quality or promising is relatively low when we look at the data, particularly once you filter by things like levels of traditional education. Meanwhile, there are also industries in this region, like utilities, for example, that offer higher rates of quality jobs. So nearly 90% of utilities jobs in this region are a quality or promising job, but there are few total jobs in those industries in the region. Going even deeper, different sub-industries vary in job quality, and certain industries are more likely to offer quality jobs to workers of different traditional educational levels and other demographic factors. So it gets a little complicated, but the bottom line is that all of this speaks to the importance of really being guided by the data and setting priorities. And in a few slides, we'll get to some of those possibilities that we were able to identify from this analysis. Before we move on, I do want to note the real racial disparities we see in the data in terms of holding quality and promising jobs, even at the same levels of traditional educational attainment, which just really points to some of those issues around disparities and access that are important for the region to address. Next slide, please. So in addition to jobs, the team looked at a wide range of factors influencing the Central Coast economy. And I really want to be clear that despite these challenges, the region has some tremendous economic assets compared to other regions that it's competing with in this very complex global economy. This is a region that has truly cutting edge knowledge economy, innovation, research and development, companies in areas like semiconductors, space exploration, unmanned systems, which are things like drones, and biotechnology, really the industries of the future that I think a lot of parts of this country are really trying to cultivate. And if we go to the next slide, please. It's also a region that has real challenges around ensuring that all of its residents can benefit from that really tremendous growth and innovation. We were just talking about how over 1 million residents belong to families that are struggling to make ends meet. We know that housing supply and affordability is a major challenge. Childcare access is a problem, as shown here. There are nowhere near enough spaces available to meet demand, which obviously pushes costs up. And as Lady will be getting into in the next segment of the day, many other issues raised in community engagement and listening sessions that really point to barriers that need to be addressed. So if we go to the next slide, please. How do we make sense of all this and provide some options for the region to move forward? Since we know we need to improve the number of quality jobs, we need to think about what industries can deliver those. So our team undertook a really complex mapping exercise, which is demonstrated here. We're not expecting you to be able to interpret this graph, but just take it as a sign of how complex the analysis was, to pinpoint the best bets for the region to achieve quality job growth. In order to meet our criteria, these industries had to check a number of boxes. They had to have a strong presence in this region relative to competing regions, to have something to build on and have the guarantee of enduring growth. They needed to offer quality and promising jobs, particularly to workers with less than a bachelor's degree. They needed to align with the sustainability focus of California Jobs First and not producing environmental harm. And to maximize the impact of investment, they needed to be in areas of the economy where the creation of one job supports additional jobs being created through the wages and income that are spent and circulated around in the economy. So this analysis pinpointed 2 categories where we think the region is poised to create more quality jobs that are accessible to folks with less than a bachelor's degree, which is really important. We need to make sure this region has not just jobs for high earners, or those with bachelor's degrees or master's degrees. We need to make sure that everyone really has a chance to participate in the economy and make ends meet and thrive. So the two buckets that we identified are precision manufacturing and advanced business services. These actually relate to some of those really innovative knowledge economy industries, where the region has a really strong foothold, but where we can also see there are opportunities for many folks to participate. At the same time, we know there are big industries that are part of the fabric of this region that will continue to play a big role in the economy. And we think there's opportunity to work there to upgrade the quality of some of those jobs, which is really important just given their scale. So if we could go to the next slide, please. To wrap this up, some overall takeaways before we get into some questions. 6 themes that we think are important coming out of the research. 1, lowering costs of living for working families is just a fundamental priority needs to be a fundamental priority for the region. Housing is a big part of that. That's a very complex issue, but it's just hard to escape that when looking at the region. Given some of the physical constraints around land use policy and development, the region does face some constraints around its growth. And that is why we think it's important to be really intentional when talking about job creation and focusing on industries that can offer quality jobs and sustainable growth. We don't want to take up the opportunities we have with opportunities that are not meeting our values and our criteria. Meanwhile, at the same time, we need to really recognize what the existing job base is in the region and focus on improving the quality of those jobs and the productivity in areas like agriculture and hospitality, so employers can pay their workers more and we can create more mobility in those areas. Alongside creating more quality jobs, we need to make sure that residents and workers are able to access those. So training, education, other things like that are really critical for the region to invest in. And then lastly, I think as all of you know, the Uplift region is 6 counties. It's a very large geographical area. Assets, like innovation assets, are distributed across different places. And just noting that some of those issues of distance create challenges for accessing assets. So thinking about how to improve proximity and access is also really important, and thinking about how to ensure that more residents can benefit from the opportunities in the region. So with that, I think we're going to pivot to questions. I know Summer has been monitoring the Q&A box, so please let us know what's there.
Sure. Thank you, Rachel. We've received a couple questions there and in the chat, so I encourage people to continue asking them as those come up. So to just get us started, one question is, just notice that those who have the most jobs are at the very bottom of the opportunity list. What does this mean? In acknowledgement that those at the bottom should receive the most investment so they become opportunity jobs.
So I assume that's on the slide with the 5 industries. So we have kind of laid out a 2-part path. There's industries where we think quality jobs can be boosted by growing jobs. And then there's industries where we think there's potential to boost quality jobs by improving existing jobs. Yeah, I think this is what we were referring to. So I'm sorry, what was the question? Which we should focus on more?
Is that those that have the most jobs, like the industries with the most jobs, are at the bottom of the opportunity list. What does this mean?
Right. So those large industries are industries that have lower job quality. So, if you think about 25% of jobs in the region qualify as quality jobs, fewer than that in agriculture or hospitality, meet that threshold. So what we're saying is, less of a focus on growing jobs in those industries because they tend to be lower quality, but we can't ignore the fact that those are really important anchors for the regional economy. So we need to think about how we can improve the quality of those large amounts of jobs that exist in those industries. We can't ignore, ignore how important they are. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that addressed the question. There's another question about education related jobs as well. So want to confirm the importance of those industries. Thanks, Rachel. One other question that came up is there any data on the number of households who are leaving the Central Coast region, especially BIPOC and low to moderate income households?
That was not part of our analysis. I know this may come up as part of the community engagement portion of the day. Uplift commissioned a public opinion poll asking folks if they saw a future for themselves in the region. I know there was a really high percentage, and I might lean on you, Quinn, because I think you probably have this offhand to say what it was. And I think that, kind of relates to that question.
This did come up subsequent from other interests, and we do have migration data that we'll probably add into the mix going forward for the strategy development or other questions that may emerge. But it's really difficult to accurately, because the population numbers are so small, to accurately track whether the characteristics of people migrating in or out of the region versus by educational attainment levels, by race or gender for sure, versus commuting patterns. So we have more information about the industries and the demographics of people who commute in and outside or within the region, but it's there are numbers about migration patterns and where people go within and outside within the counties and to other counties around the country and in California. But the information about that level of detail on BIPOC populations or age and educational attainment is really not accurate and available.
Any other questions, Summer, that you want to surface?
Yes. What is your plan to bring new business into the region that pay high-paying jobs?
Yeah, so I think that is reflected in those top two industries that were on that slide: precision manufacturing and advanced business services. There's a number of kind of sub-industries that fit under that, like aerospace and clean tech, blue tech. This is what, based on that really complex industry analysis that I was talking about with the kind of circular mapping, this is where we kind of see the opportunity to grow more quality jobs in the region, including those that are accessible to workers with less than a bachelor's degree.
And I also think that's the question for this group going forward, which is really, what are the appropriate strategies, most effective strategies to both attract firms into the region, but even more, most job creation comes from growth from within, retention expansion of existing firms, middle market firms and others. So there's a whole lot of possible interventions to help grow the number of quality jobs. The first order that we looked at here obviously was where you should spend your limited time and money for the greatest impact. And then the specific solutions, whether it's talent development or entrepreneurship supports or other kinds of factors, is for the strategy phase, and a lot of other input and co-development with everyone from educational institutions to community development groups to traditional economic developers and government.
I also just want to say that this is Merritt Gutman. He is also on our research team from the Brookings Institute. He didn't get introduced, but he's also answering questions, it turns out.
Yeah, I had a question. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, you mentioned about improving quality of jobs. I'm in Ventura County, Oxnard in particular. How do you actually do that? Because it's easy to say, but how do you actually do it? Because in my area, two things: one, housing, and second, quality jobs. So to improve quality jobs in our area, when you have the private sector involved, how do you actually do that?
So it's extremely difficult. And there are a couple of different angles to it depending upon the industry. In a lot of areas, it's about helping firms to improve their productivity and working with employees, incumbent workers, and new employees, so that the work that's being done is more productive and becomes higher paid. That's around technology adoption in particular sectors, particularly such as, for example, it's been proven in like agriculture. There are other examples about processes and products improvements in certain sectors, and helping firms to both offer other kinds of benefits to workers that unlock potential, such as approaches to cooperative childcare and other factors. And part of it is also just the ability to retain and improve your workforce inside firms. There are a couple of different approaches to that. That's obviously a complicated effort, takes a long period of time. But these are all different elements that have been proven in various regions to have an impact. And there are other techniques, but there's no kidding. That is an extremely difficult challenge to address. It just has to be a focus, and we have to come up with some clever solutions built on what other places have figured out, and probably some of our own.
Thank you, Merrick. Yeah, and thank you to all of you who asked great questions here. While we didn't get to address all of them today, you can expect more information soon, and we hope that the full report that gets released very shortly will address many of your remaining questions. The Uplift team is also happy to connect with you individually, so if you would like to do that, please share your contact information in the chat for a follow-up. A real critical component of this work that Uplift is doing is community engagement. Lady has been a wonderful leader on this component of Uplift, so we're now going to turn it to her to share more.
Thank you so much, Summer. And thank you for the discussion. I know there are more questions and we're going to take the time to answer all of them. This is my favorite part of the project since the beginning. One thing that I like about the Uplift Coalition is when we received the funding and we were planning strategies to reach out to community members, we thought about who can be in the table that haven't been before. That's why we created a structure and we created framework to do listening sessions across the 6-county region. And the listening sessions are mid-sized groups where people are in a comfortable space and they can talk about their needs and their challenges in the regions and the cities where they live. And also we created the community convenings like this one, where we are asking the community, but also we are informing what is the plan, what are the next steps. We have done some community convenings in person during July last year, and we are still doing listening sessions. And the listening sessions goals were to understand individuals' concerns, hopes, and aspirations, identify barriers and challenges, and obtain community members' input on California jobs first. Again, we are trying to build long-term community connection because this is a project that is aiming to build collaborations, community in the time, and co-create solutions and strategies. And that is the next phase that we are starting this year. And to talk about who are we reaching out and where we have been, we have here our colleague Jaysana from MBEP in the Northern region. So Jaysana, go ahead and show us.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lady, for that. And as Lady stated, I think the community engagement is the most fun part. It's the most the heartening part of it all, because you can really sit down and engage with the communities, connect with our community leaders, as well as the community in general. Within the Northern region, our footprint is Monterey County, Santa Cruz County, as well as San Benito County. We've conducted 23 listening sessions in the Northern region and have connected and engaged with around 1,100 community partners within this region. Within that space, we've worked with amazing organizations like Mujeres en Acción, CBDIO Society, Building Healthy Communities, Santa Cruz Action Board, as well as the Village Project, Black Leaders and Allies Collaborative, Santa Cruz Black, and Monterey County Black Caucus. And there's probably a few more that I wasn't able to name, but they were really the key leaders in partnering with us and trusting us within this process. As Durek stated in the beginning of this, I think the whole Uplift team, it's very important for us to build trust within our communities with these organizations and continue to ensure that we're building that trust and that they're able to trust us and we're able to bring them into this amazing initiative and, just continue that within 2024. And I know it's going to be a heavy lift this year, but I know we're ready and willing to continue this and hopefully double our engagement within this space. So thank you guys for being here today. And that's just a quick rundown of the Northern region.
Thank you, Jaisana. And before we go to the next slide, I want to share that, the Northern region was very active on engaging with communities, and that is in part because the organizations are very engaged with the project. So thank you to all of the organizations who partner with us. One important thing that I like to highlight from this process is participants are being compensated, and we have spent a lot of our budget on compensating people to create these comfortable spaces for them to share. And we can go to the next slide. And this is another thing that I like in the community engagement areas or sessions. We were seeing same needs and same challenges from populations that the research committee was seeing in data reports and other strategic planning from the regions. And recently we were talking about, do we have data or information about people moving? And one thing that we got as qualitative information in the listening sessions is, given the lack of quality jobs and high cost of living, people are leaving the Central Coast. They cannot see a future in the region, and they either leave or they stay, but they struggle. And as Quinn was saying at the beginning of the meeting, 45% of the population are struggling. I remember one listening session in the Northern region where one of the members of the community were saying, it's sad to see my friends leaving the neighborhood, leaving the city, leaving the states, because they cannot be able to pay rent. They don't have any jobs. Most of them are undocumented. So that's another challenge and another barrier for to find a good job. So that's the type of things that we're listening in listening sessions. And at the same time, the region's residents are proud of their communities, and they want more resources and stronger partnerships. And I remember a listening session in New Cuyama in the southern region where we were talking about challenges and needs and what is needed in the small area that is New Cuyama. But at the end, one of the members said, yeah, we have a lot to work on, so we are not leaving New Cuyama. We are staying, and we are going to work on that. Another big theme is care economy, and this is involving childcare, elder care, healthcare. This is a big barrier and a big challenge for residents in the Central Coast, starting from I need to wait 8 months to get an appointment with a physician or with a family doctor, or I don't have specialists to take care of my child with special needs or with a disability. And also there's a lack of professionals because there is a lack of housing in the region. So everything is a big net of challenges that we need to address. And another theme of the listening sessions, and this is the top themes, there are many more, is the region's underdeveloped infrastructure. And this is regarding public transportation, lack of public transportation in rural areas, especially where you have big distances or long distances between houses and job sites for farm workers, for example, or people who needs to commute from one county to another, people commuting from Santa Cruz or San Benito to the Bay Area, or in Ventura, people commuting from Ventura to Los Angeles. That increase the expenses on gas and cost of living. Another thing is the broadband, the internet infrastructure for the region. Sometimes we did listening sessions on Zoom and there were people like, I can't join because there's no internet connection for me to join. So those are the challenges that we found. And one thing, and if you have any comments or questions, please put it in the chat. One thing that we're doing to reach out to more community members across the region, and we can go to the next slide, is we created a community engagement services grant. This was a process where CBOs applied for this grant. It was a process last year, and in December we launched this group of 17 community-based organizations across the region that are serving different communities and different type of demographics and populations. One thing that is good to see is in the beginning, the Uplift team were hosting listening sessions in collaboration with partners organizations, and we couldn't reach out to everybody in the region. And now we have the support of 17 partner organizations that are collaborating with the Uplift Coalition, and they are reaching out to different populations. So I want to invite, we have a guest, Carrie from the Center for Family Strengthening. So Carrie, can you turn on your camera? And I'm super happy to have you here to share about your work within this grant. So Carrie, I know you're here. You can raise your hand. And you should have received a message in your screen to turn on your camera, or you can just open your mic and share with us. I think we're having some trouble with Carrie. I know there are other co-workers from the Center for Family Strengthening in the call, so maybe you can share about your organization. And if not, I want to share that this organization is based in San Luis Obispo, and they are going to reach out to different populations in Cambria, San Miguel, Los Osos, Morro Bay, and Oceano. And they are planning to do listening sessions, but also phone interviews to reach out to different population that cannot participate in listening sessions in person or on Zoom. So the target audience for those listening sessions are low-income families, unemployed or underemployed individuals, agricultural workers, single parents, teen moms, youth and senior citizens, non-English speakers, undocumented individuals, and individuals experiencing homelessness. Thank you, Carrie. I know you're here. We are going to, let me know when you're ready and we can continue the conversation, but I'm going to skip to the next slide. And yeah, Carrie, I know you are having trouble unmuting. I'm sorry about that. This is a timeline of what are we going to continue doing. In the first phase last year, we were asking people about your challenges, your needs, your dreams, your hope, your expectations about your region and your city and your county. And from now to April, we're going to keep working with community members on listening sessions, but now we're moving from asking questions about needs to asking them to think about strategies. How can we solve those challenges? How can we help community members to solve their challenges? And we wanted to make this different structure this time because we know that the community members are the experts and they also have ideas to plan strategies and to share with the community and with the rest of the Uplift Coalition. And so this has been a huge work of the team in the Northern region and in the Southern region. Thank you all the organizations that have been partnering with us, and now the 17 organizations that are partnering with us at this phase. So we want to ask every one of you, who else should be at the table? Who do you think we haven't think about, or what ideas do you think we haven't think about to engage better with the community members across the region? So I'm going to have that question open. You can use the chat, you can use the Q&A, and we're going to be reading those answers. Thank you so much. And I'm going to pass the mic to Quinn to continue with the program.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lady. And Ashley, I see your comment there about Lady's great work. And I just want to echo that, Lady, and our whole community engagement team of Jayzana and Celeste and Shelby and Alondra have been doing a lot of work to build relationships and be in partnership with community organizations and individuals who have historically been left out of this process. So really, really grateful to them for their work. And as Lady said, you can keep putting those ideas in the chat right now. We're going to keep collecting them. I'm going to move on and share a little bit about the Catalyst Fund and what that is, what you can expect. But we'll continue watching the chat to collect your ideas. So who's not at the table? Who do you know in your community that might be a voice that we haven't heard from yet, or that you really appreciate hearing from, that we should connect with? And then what might we not be considering yet in community engagement? What are some ways of engaging the community, or thoughts around the process that you want to share with us? Because we are really in the business of co-creating, and would love to know what you think. And with that, I'm going to share a little bit about the Catalyst Fund. So this is a really exciting time and kind of next phase of our work as we move to strategy and bringing all of this learnings from the community engagement that Lady talked about and all of the research that Rachel talked about to this place where we can start to form strategies to meet some of those pain points and to build collaboration regionally. We are really committed to not just putting this into a plan that sits on a shelf or just making a document or just a bunch of words, but really bringing this in to inclusive and meaningful action for our Central Coast region and the people that live here. And one way that we are going to begin doing this is in partnership with California Jobs First and Catalyst Funding. Catalyst funding, we applied for that funding a couple months back and anticipate to hear announcements about those awards in the coming month or weeks or so. And this funding is really designed to bridge the gap between planning and those strategies that we talked about and implementation projects. And the Jobs First Collaborative is really trying to help build this social infrastructure to continue this work that we're doing, this regional inclusive planning and bringing the tables together of our committees to make decisions collaboratively and really dream up and bring to life the vision for our future. It's also this funding will enable regions to build a pipeline of viable, ready to go California Jobs First aligned projects. And its intent, which I just really love this so much of the Catalyst Fund, is to de-risk bold, more transformational projects. So many people here in this room today do incredible work, and you might be a part of organizations that have just a few people, or it might just be you. And it's really hard to get the funding or to seed the ideas that you have that you know will meet the needs of your community. And this funding is really designed to be that bridge builder between that brilliant idea that hits within these strategies of job creation and meeting the needs of our communities and implementing them. So that could look like a feasibility study or kind of all these different ways of de-risking the transformational ideas that we have. And I think on the next slide, I have a little bit more about what that looks like in this Catalyst pre-development phase before it moves into implementation. Implementation would be like the project's ready to go, completed everything necessary, and it's shovel ready. Catalyst is really in this exploratory or last mile portions of the work where early stages of development, it could be an idea or a back of the envelope plan. All of us have probably been in collaborations and conversations in organizations where there's many of those and there's not the work to fund the people to do it. So could be funding a study to develop that potential project, or a feasibility study, as I was mentioning. And really, it's undergoing some of the initial steps towards development, but has to clear a few initial hurdles. So this funding will open once we've been awarded, hoping that we are awarded, and we'll receive and draw down that funding in the summer. And after all of the strategies have come together in this plan that we are right now working on, there'll be an opportunity to apply for Catalyst funding that meets within the strategies that have been identified by the committees that represent and are Uplift Central Coast. And this will go out wide to everyone in our region to partner, to build collaborations, and to come forward to bring your ideas to the table for Catalyst and pre-development project funding. And on the next slide, okay, so that's all I have on Catalyst. We will be very excited the day that we learn if we have been awarded. We will be sharing that out broadly. So hopefully you'll hear some good news from us in the coming weeks. And we'll be excited to share lots more in the coming months about what that process will look like, what the criteria is to apply for that kind of funding, and what will come next in Uplift's journey and adventure ahead. I'm going to start wrapping us up. There are lots of ways to be involved in the work ahead. As Lady mentioned, there are organizations facilitating listening sessions right now across the region. And so we are happy to connect you with our partner organizations who are doing this work. If there are community members in your area who you want to host something with, you can reach out to Lady directly. Her email's on the screen, and we would love to collaborate with you on what it would look like to make sure that your community is heard. We're also going to be hosting issue and industry focused roundtables in the coming months. So employers, business leaders, community members working on specific issues, you'll be hearing from us as we start to bring together some conversations to help inform strategy. As we mentioned before, one of the most exciting parts of our work to date will be released next week. Don't exactly know what day yet, but it'll be next week for sure. We'll look forward to sharing that out. I'm going to ask Lady to put in the chat again, or Gabriella just did, the website where you can sign up for our newsletter. The report will be shared on that website, but it'll also be sent out in the newsletter once it's ready, along with the executive summary, along with the recording of this meeting and the slide deck. So I'd encourage you to stay connected with us at Uplift Central Coast on our newsletter, but then also wherever you like to engage. If you like to engage in social media, we are there and trying to help make sure that we can spread the word about the work that is happening. And with that, I just want to say thank you all so much for joining us, for taking your time. You could have been a lot of places today, and you just spent about an hour and a half of your time with us, and we are really grateful. And also much gratitude to our committee members who are here and who are doing this work every day. So thank you all so much. Feel free to keep connecting with us with additional questions or ways to plug in. We're grateful for your time.